Good everyone, I hope you're having an amazing day today. So today I'll be going to start a new series around Platform Developer 1 certification. Platform Developer 1 certification is a very popular Salesforce certification for developers. So if you are someone who is a developer or an aspiring developer, then this certification is for you. The few things I wanted to talk about today, I won't be using any slides because I'll be relying on Trailhead to teach you guys and the developer console where we can write the code. So I will cover each of them over the course of time. So my main interest is to put out a video every day so that I can get you up to the speed. And if you have any queries, yeah, please welcome to write comments, right? Okay, so the first thing first. I'm not sure if you guys have any experience with the Salesforce in general. If not, it's highly encouraged to get a few hands-on experience on the Salesforce platform. You should be fairly comfortable with orgs, records, objects, custom objects, standard objects. If not, then I would highly encourage you to check out my another series I've created. So I have another YouTube series around Salesforce, basic Salesforce, where I covered about from the how to set up an org and other stuff. So, and even I have a blog around it. So this is my blog. So it basically contains all the videos I've created. So if you find it interesting, please check it out. You can see, so I covered from basic record types, formula fields, page layouts, and even the Conga composer, right? Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing, before you study for Platform Developer 1, you need to get the certification handouts, the syllabus, what do we call? So what are you going to do, or exam guide, whatever you say, right? So the way to get the exam guide is to go to trailhead.salesforce.com, credential, Platform Developer 1, go to the exam guide, and you need to pay attention to here first. First, let's talk about an exam, right? So Platform Developer 1 contains 60 multiple choice questions, right? And you will be given 110 minutes. Passing score is 65%. You need to pay 200 USD plus taxes. And retake fees if you fail the test is $100, right? You can go to proctored exam delivered on-site place, or you can do online as well. So there are requirements, so you can click here for more information if you like, right? So the training reference, right? For this course, we will be using the Trail Max, right? So let me go here. So we will be covering this, and once that's done, you will be fairly confident with the platform development sides, the features and other stuff, and then we will, I will encourage you to check for Focus and Force, where you can do practice test, right? So my main interest is to make you an awesome Salesforce developer. I've been working on Salesforce platform for quite some time. I've been developing on this platform, so I have a fairly decent amount of experience on the development side of things, and as well as the integration side of things as well. So yeah, so my main intention is to go through these topics and explain to you, and we will do hands-on, right? So I would encourage you guys to do hands-on as well, because just listening to my talk won't really help. You need to get your hands dirty, right? I need to read extra stuff as well. So, and I would really encourage you to study if you're really preparing for a platform, just to do all the trails here, right? Okay, let's go back to the exam guide, right? So we have five sections here. Salesforce Fundamentals, which is 7%. So where they talked about what it means to develop in a multi-tenant environment. I'll cover what multi-tenant means in a minute. And design framework and Aura framework, and declarative versus programmable customization. So you need to know all this kind of stuff, right? And then we talk about data modeling, right? And then we have process automation, and then we have user interface, which use Visual Force and Lightning. And then we talk about testing, debugging, and deployment, right? You can use the Salesforce. We have a deployment using chain sets. That's a Salesforce one. You can use a third party like Gear set. So we will get into that when we reach to that stage, right? Okay, so please go through this one. You need to know all of this stuff here, right? And it's very essential. And then once you get the Salesforce certification, you have to maintain your certification, right? Because that's very important. Because you work hard to get the certification, right? Okay. All right. So first thing first, let's dive into our first training course on platform development 1, right? Okay. So the first thing we need to cover the platform development basics, right? Let's get into it. And I will give you an overview about it. And so get started with the Salesforce platform. Sorry. So Salesforce, right? Salesforce is a cloud-based platform, right? So you have different technologies on it, different components. Also, you can say you have different clouds. You have Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Service Clouds, right? And then you have Developer Console where you write your code, right? Salesforce have so you can even deploy your app using Heroku, and Salesforce also have a mobile SDK, for developing native HTML based apps, right? So yeah, I mean, because Salesforce gives you a lot of flexibility to do a lot of customization. It's not that whatever that comes out of the box you have to stick to it. You can enhance it, you can customize it, but there is a catch though, right? It's fine that we all are developers. We love to code. We admire coding. Whenever we get an opportunity, we love to jump on coding, right? Yeah, that's that's right. But in Salesforce, it works a bit different, right? You can't code every single thing. There are a lot of things that can be done using point click, and the things which you can't do using point click, that's the area where you should focus on coding them. So as a developer, it's very essential. You need to know when to code and when not to code, right? It's not about just going and knowing the language or syntax and just dump on and coding. No, that's not how it works. So right, okay. So what we need to do, you need to register for an org, right? So I've registered for an org here. So to register for an org, so you go to developer.salesforce.com, and you need to sign up for an org. It's a free org. You get it for life. It's a developer org with limitations so that you can do all kind of free practice and training, right? So Salesforce is giving you a lot of flexibility to do that. All the new features that comes up, you can train. So I will encourage you to please register for a developer org. I won't be covering how to do that. I've explained in another video in my other basic fundamental Salesforce training. You can check it out. So once I assume that when I teach you this course, I assume you have some knowledge about Salesforce. If you don't, please go and check out the Salesforce Fundamental, either from Trailhead or you can watch my videos, right? Because it won't be because I won't be covering a lot of basics here. So my apologies for that, because this is not a basic introduction course. It is an introduction course to programming on Salesforce, but not in Salesforce as general, right? So that's why it's often encourage you to have Salesforce admin certification first before you dive into Salesforce Platform Developer 1. If you don't, that's fine. You can still take Platform Developer 1, but you need to know a lot of concepts before you jump into the development side of the Salesforce. Okay, so this is my training free org. So as I mentioned, Salesforce comes with sales different clouds, Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud. So you can see Service Cloud. So so let's go to Sales. So if you go to Sales app, and so everything when we talk about apps in Salesforce, right? It basically means different tabs, which are objects and screens. That's pretty much it. And it's very easy to create the apps without writing a code using Lightning App Builder, right? And so this is a sales app, right? It has different tabs here. So you have opportunities, contacts, accounts. These are opportunities, leads, accounts, contacts. They are the standard objects, right? And campaign as well. And you can create your own custom object and you can display here if you like, right? So then we have, Service Cloud. So Service Clouds usually is very handy as well. So, and then because when we deal with the cases, that's where the Service Cloud comes into the picture. Then we have Einstein. Einstein is analytics. You can write your boards. It's like their AI tool. Yeah, we have fancy stuff on Salesforce, right? Right. So that's why Salesforce is very powerful. And Heroku platform is developed on AWS. We have yes, a lot of options on Salesforce. So, and then you can do fancy reporting using normal Salesforce reporting engine or reporting component. Or if you want template based, you can go to App Exchange and get the new Conga based reporting, right? Okay, so this is one of the basic thing I wanted to cover here, right? So let's go back to. So what they have done is that they have asked you to install the Dream app, right? So this is pretty easy thing. I would encourage you to do that. So what they're gonna do. So click the install tag, paste this into header. You can do that if you want, or you can do a hands-on challenge, right? So what you're gonna do is that you log into your org, right? And then right, hang on a second. Just let's go back to sales. And okay, so as I mentioned, replace everything after the lightningforce.com, right? And copy this. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go here and replace everything after lightning, and it will take you to a page. Oh, sorry, that seems right. That doesn't make sense. Okay, sorry. What we're gonna do, we're gonna go to, let me log in. Okay, let me log in first. Hopefully it takes me without using credentials. Okay, that's fantastic. All right, I've already taken this challenge, so let's retake the challenge. Let's see how it happens. So what you have to do, let me launch this playground. And yeah, sometimes when you do Trailhead, you will encounter some challenge. So that's one of the things you need to know as a developer. Things don't go as planned most of the time, then you need to know how to troubleshoot it, right? So, you can't say, oh yeah, it's not working, I don't know. No, that's not the proper response. So they expect you, if you're a developer, you need to know a lot of things. Okay, so I launched my playground, so I presume everyone knows how to, what the playground is, right? So let's copy this, Let's see first of all if I've installed the Dreamhouse. See, I have a Dreamhouse app installed, so I do not want to install it, but I just want to show you if it works or not. So you see, they said to replace everything out of force.com, right? And then I copy the link here and just take it off this one. And right, so it's already installed, so that's why it says that you can't update it. So you will get an option where you say install for admin only, install for all user. So go and install it, right? And then once it's installed, what you have to do is that go to your install packages, and here, because this is very important, you need to know how to install an app, a package, sorry. There you go. I have Dreamhouse installed. If you, for some reason, for whatever reason, if you don't see it here, you need to wait for some time, because installing Dreamhouse sometimes take 10-15 minutes. So it will send you an email once it's done. So, and once you do that, it'll ask you to, go here and go to App Launcher, select Dreamhouse app. Sorry, select the Dreamhouse app. So you're here at Dreamhouse app. So if you don't see it, just go into this tic-tac-toe icon and select the Dreamhouse, right? And then go to more, data import, and then click initialize sample data, right? Right, so you do that there. That's all you need to do. And click here, you will get 500 points. It's pretty straightforward, right? Okay, let's go back to another one. Second tutorial on this platform development. Yeah, okay, hang on a second. Sometimes it takes you to where, all right, let me, okay, so I'll go back here again. And let's go to develop without code. So, everything in Salesforce, it's actually relies on a metadata. So you can also call it as a metadata aware architecture, right? Because we have objects, fields, and records. In Salesforce, an object is like a table, field is like a column name, and record. So for instance, let me go to an app here, sales app. So account, right? For instance, account is an object. And if you create an entry, this one, Dixon Place, that's a record, right? And these account owner, account name, these are fields belonging to that object, right? So that's how Salesforce is configured, and that's the concept of the Salesforce. There is something called Schema Builder, which actually give you a visual representation of an object and your fields. So to get to that, what do you need to do? You need to go to Setup, and you need to go to Object Manager, right? And there is a Schema Builder. So you can see that it's a different objects you have, and then you can actually play around with it. Clear all. You can choose only account. Yeah. Or you can select all, right? So let's say I choose this idea, right? Idea an object or an image object, right? So this red thing shows you which is the required field, and the rest of them are the fields, right? And you can actually add a new field from here. you can actually say if you wanted to add a checkbox, you can drag and drop the checkbox here. You can create your checkbox. It's a visual representation. It's a pretty cool tool. I mean, I use it sometimes, but or you can see this. If you are someone very geeky, right? You can actually see this information through the code as well. You can write an Apex code. I've written a couple of Apex code. Sometimes there are times where I like, okay, I don't want it to do with the visual representation. Let's get some geeky, Yeah, well, whatever reason. Okay. Sorry, digress. Okay, so as you can see that we have Schema Builder, which is very powerful, right? And then that's what called, and then you can do a lot of your stuff without code, right? So for instance, you can create let me give you an example, right? You have an account, right? This is an account object and this is a field. So you don't have to write a code to create a field. You can create a new using a point click. This is what we call point click, where you don't have to write a code. So let's create a field for you, very, very simple field, or sorry, text field, for instance. Right, let me create a text field and say demo, right, and length I can put 255, and you can click on next, and you can click on next, and you can do that, right, and you can save. So you see, we don't need to use any code, right, to create this text field. It's that simple, right? So if someone comes to you and say, look, I wanted to create this field using a code, then you will have to ask, why are you doing that? And Salesforce was giving you an option to do using point and click, right? So you need to know when to use a code, when not to use a code. I mean, similarly, if you wanted to create a custom object, right, you need to use this. I mean, if someone says to you, oh, look, I wanted to create a custom object using a code, then you have to ask, oh, really? You wanted to create a custom object using a code? I mean, that means that person don't know much about Salesforce. I mean, so yeah, and then we have something called Process Builder. Process Builder is very handy. So Process Builder, it actually lets you automate a lot of the process, right? So let me give a very simple example. I have an opportunity, right? And in an opportunity, let's say we have a field called pick list called marked as complete. We have different options pick list. Let's say start, finish, complete, finish, deleted, right? Just assume there are 3: start, finish, and deleted, right? And when you mark an opportunity as closed, right, you want that field to be automatically set to finished, right? Without any user intervention. You can use a process builder to do that. You can, create this is a very simple example I'm saying. You can use a process builder to invoke an Apex code, right? For instance, right, you have written a code to do something, right? And you can use a process builder to trigger that Apex code, provided the code is invocable code, right? So process builder is very powerful. It lets you do a lot of things without code, but there is a limitation to it. We'll get to that later, right? And then we have flows where you can actually develop a flow-based app, right? And you have flow is very powerful. You can create your own flows, and you can link it to a page, and you can click there. And if you wanted to have a fancy-looking user interface, Flow actually gives you that option, and then you can work your logic around that. Flow, you can do very complex stuff with the flows as well. So just give you a very quick example, right? So you go to flow, so we got flows here. So we can create a new flow. I mean, I'm not doing much with the flow. I just wanted to give you a perspective. So let's choose a screen flow, right? And you see you can start, and you can have an assignment, right? You can give whatever name you want, and then you can have a loop, right? so and you have create record, update, delete record. You can do a lot of stuff with this flow, right? Okay, because yeah, so that's very powerful. So there are certain things which you can do using flows. You don't need to write a code. So you need to know when to write a code, when not to write a code. Right? Okay. All right. So that's the thing. Let's go back. Let's see. And code with Salesforce language. Right. So Salesforce gives you flexibility, right? You've got Apex, which is similar to Java language. Or if you're a C# developer like me, you will find it comfortable working with Apex as well. The difference between Apex is case insensitive, unlike C#. Sorry, if I mentioned C++, my bad. I was about to say C#. I work with C# in Apex, not C++. I did C++ work back in the days when I started my programming career. Okay. So yeah, and the Lightning component framework we got, which is quite similar to AngularJS or React. If you've used React, it's basically component based, right? So if you know React, you will find it Lightning component framework quite friendly. You will find it very easy to use. Visualforce is more like their own custom markup language, similar to like HTML, right? And you know it's a server side. It's a component, and Lightning is more about the client side. So you can develop. You know, when you talk about, I will cover the Lightning and Visualforce detail later. Just to give you a context, right? When you talk about Lightning, right, you talk in terms of components, right? So and it's not a server side, right? For instance, compare like Visualforce. In Visualforce, let's say you request a page, right? The page has to come from a server. You do some update, it has to make a server call, and it's page centric. You don't have a concept of small page, multiple page, you know, like a small component page, you know, other component page and make a big page. No, it's revolve around the page. Whereas in Lightning component, you can build small components and can combine to form a big, you know, a big container containing the list of different components. And as a client side, so most of you can see instantaneously if you do a change, you can see on your UI, because you don't have to make a server request, right? So because client is doing all the stuff, your you know, Lightning component bundle on the client side, right? It actually does all your rendering and kind of stuff, all the changes you do. Only thing it talks to, it uses Apex on server side, and it uses you know, JavaScript and other stuff on the client side. So we will talk in detail about it. So for now, remember that, and Lightning is mobile ready. So if you wanted to develop today any Salesforce application and your main purpose is to target a mobile device, then please use Lightning component, right? So Lightning is new. Visualforce is very old. You still need to know Visualforce. There are a lot of legacy code out there which use Visualforce. It's good to know there are a lot of components which still uses, which is very powerful in Visualforce. Salesforce has been doing a lot of update on Lightning components, so you might find a scenario where you may not find an out-of-box Lightning component, and you need to rely on Visualforce. A learning curve is a bit higher on Lightning, but it's worth the effort, right? And so yeah, and because everything if your company wants to do something which is mobile ready, then it's highly encourageable to use the Lightning, right? And it's very stable platform as well, right? So yeah, and next is the Apex code. Apex is usually a object-oriented programming language, which is case sensitive, and it is similar to C# or Java, but its library it's very limited, because if you look at the .NET framework, right, it's huge, and syntax is pretty much friendly. And if you work with Java or C#, you might find the syntax quite, you know, public with sharing, and so kind of stuff. So yeah, so, and let's go back. So yeah, you can extend the Salesforce platform. So, you need to know a little bit about APIs, just to give you a basic idea about APIs, right? So Salesforce have these following APIs. The SOAP APIs is a web service API. You can expose it so that the third party can integrate. And if you wanted to do REST API, this is what mostly used. I mean, I use a lot of REST APIs. Say if I wanted to integrate with the third party, right? They can use our API to push the data or pull the data, right? And then we have metadata API, then we have tooling APIs, marketing cloud APIs, So, and bulk API is very important because if you wanted to do a asynchronous query on a large data set, then bulk API comes in the picture. And send and receive notification, right? Securely, you rely on streaming APIs. And then mobile SDK, which is, you can use to. So Heroku, it's, for instance, right? You remember that we have installed the Dream app, right? That is for us if you're using a Salesforce, right? But how do an external world can see that app, right? That is hosted on Heroku app. So so the app is deployed, and then it will expose it, right? So that's exactly what I said. Our dream house Heroku. See, when you click here, right? This is how you will see an external person will see the real estate dream app. And for a Salesforce, you can go to Salesforce and look for Dream App. You can see that. But an external person who doesn't have a Salesforce, don't see here, right? That's where Heroku comes in the picture. Heroku is it's actually, as I mentioned earlier, it's built on AWS. So Amazon Web Services is very powerful. If you don't know what Amazon Web Services is, there are a lot of videos out there. It's similar to Azure as a cloud platform, right? We use Azure a lot. So Amazon is pretty much similar. You have a lot of things like IAM, identity access management, EC2, containers, virtual private networks, so Route 53 or something. If I remember, it's been ages I've worked with AWS. So, all right, okay, sorry, I digress. So yeah, and we have something called Heroku Connect, where actually helps you to unify your Salesforce data, right? With your Heroku Postgres data, right? So yeah, and then we have IoT and kind of stuff, right? You can do a lot of things. You can write bots, which is exciting, but I won't be covering here much because it's beyond the scope of this course, right? Okay, so you can check it out. There's a Dream, if you have installed the Dream, so Dream House, right? There is a bot out there, so you can bot commands. You can play with it, and But as I said, it's beyond the scope of this course, so let's move on. Right. So the next thing I wanted to cover is this second one, this boy. So what they've done, they have actually compared .NET and your Apex, right? So let's jump in first because, right. So what they talked about is that Apex with respect to C# or .NET Basic, right? If you are someone who works with .NET, then you will find it pretty easy, right? So Apex is an object-oriented programming language, right? You have all the data types you want, most of the data types you want, right? Integer, decimals, date, datetime, string, boolean, and then S-objects. S-objects is something like an account, right? Or a custom object you create. Standard or custom object you can create can be part of an S-object. So let me stop you there for a minute. Imagine that you've been a Salesforce developer, right? And you've been a C# developer. In C# you need to install Visual Studio, right? Or Visual Studio Code. Let's say we have installed Visual Studio. So the way you do it, you run the Visual Studio, you start a project, and then you have a solution, right, which contains the files, your class and all kind of stuff, right? And your libraries. So, but in Salesforce, we have no such concept of Solution Explorer. Or, you just go to Developer Console, or you can use your local Visual Code or Eclipse plugin, right? For Salesforce plugin to do a local development. I mean, I prefer to do using Developer Console because you can run it using a browser anywhere, and right. So let me give you a comparison first before we do some coding here today, which is exciting part, right? Coding. So first of all, let me start the Visual Studio to show you what I mean by that. Right. Let's open a project. So just something out there recently. So when you open a Visual Studio, this is Visual Studio 17. It takes some time. So you see on the right hand side, we have Solution Explorer, where you have class name, project name, right? Everything is arranged. So we don't have such thing in Apex, right? And this code, if you look at this code, right? This code is similar. You will find it much similar to Apex, right? So the way to do an Apex development. So what are you gonna do? Let's go to your org. This is my org, right? So I open this. So you see this gear cog icon, right? Click here, open the developer console. So it will take you to this blank screen. And this is, if you look at this, the bottom option here, you have logs. You can see the list of log file generated. Test, this is where you see the test result of the test case you run. Checkpoints, it's like a breakpoints. Query, it's where you write your SOQL queries, right? And view state, then progress, and if there's a problem there, right? So checkpoints, right? I wanted to focus on checkpoint. If you're a C# developer, you're used to breakpoint, right? You just put a breakpoint here, right? You just put a breakpoint here, and you can step in through the code. It's not really the case in Salesforce. You have to understand that Salesforce code get compiled and stored in the cloud. So if you step in the code, right, and if everyone does that, it will just freeze that damn thing, and and then it causes a massive performance issue because it's a multi-tenant architecture. Remember I talked about multi-tenant architecture where the resources are shared. Think about like an apartment block, right? Where everyone has like imagine an apartment block. I'm not sure if you have ever been to Soviet Union, or Russia, or wherever, or post-Soviet countries, okay, let's talk about apartment, right? Okay, four-story apartment, each story, three apartments, right? So that means like 12 apartments, right, total. So each 12 apartments, right? Each apartment shares the building, water supply and power. They pay, right, individual share of the power, but there's a common wire that runs through. You know what I'm trying to say, and so they hold the space in that big building. So that's how the multi-tenant architecture. Your org will hold the small space in that multi-tenant, in that architecture space. So your org is like your apartment house building, your apartment on that big building, right? Where you're sharing a resource with the rest of the people who lives there. So it's similar, like that's how the multi-tenant architecture comes into picture. So that's where the checkpoints comes into picture in Salesforce, because you can't really debug it, but you can actually see everything, every code you ran using your checkpoint, and there's something called the preferences. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So what we're gonna do first thing first, right? This is your developer console, and like if you're like me, like I don't like let's say, let me write a query first, right? Select name from account. So this is a SOQL query. Right, it gives you some result, right? That's fantastic. Now, this is all about your SQL, right? SOQL is like a Salesforce SQL language. There are limitations to it. We'll cover that later. Okay, so now I wanted to create a class, an Apex class. The way you do it, go to File, go to New, an Apex class, give a name. Let's say test class, right? right? This is gives you skeleton here, public class. And now I wanted to write a static method, right? Public static void show, right? And then, all right, this is my debug command, system.debug, hello world, right? Now, you can't debug this stuff. You can put a, the checkpoint, which will be, this is the one checkpoint I put. Now, the way to run it, first of all, you need to save your class. I put Control S, and you can see it's saved. If there's a problem, it will shows you a problem here, right? And now, how do I test it, right? So the way you can test this class, by going to something called Open Execute Anonymous window. Click here, and then you write test class, the name of a class. And since it's a static function, you can do show, right? And then say open log, right? And then execute it. Right, it runs the log, and you can see that we have different things, right? This is where it says that it started your class, execute anonymous, execution starter, sorry. This is where it says execution started, code unit started, because when it enters that anonymous blog, and then if you go down, right. So so this is about your log, and let's see. So you can expand it if you wanted to do it, and it actually gives you, and it says execution finish, right? So between these two, execution start and execution finish, is where a lot of the operation happens, right? And now now it's very hard to debug it, right? It's not like a usual C# or Visual Studio, editor. It's nowhere closer to it. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. So the way you can do it, you can go to so switch perspective. I'm gonna go all. So so what are you gonna do? Let's see if I can expand it. Okay, right. So you can see that it can show you your execution stack, right? And it shows the show, and it shows you the what classes run, and it can show you, and you can see that your log file, right? For instance, like execution started, it tells you where it is, and code unit, it tells you that it comes here, and let's say statement execute. Let's see, just a second. Method entry, all these kind of things you can see. Heaps allocate. You can actually move through the log file, and you can see information on the. So this is pretty handy in my opinion, right? And you can close this one, and sorry, we can go back again. We can go to again, and let's run it again, right? Right, okay, now go to checkpoint. You can see the checkpoint is none, so we can, it just tells you what it is. So what we're gonna do here is to see the value of hello world, right? So the way you can do, see, a lot of log files are there. Sometimes it's like a lot of too much noise, right? So you can click on debug only, and you can see hello world, right? This is how you can work with the logs. It's very handy when you do an Apex code, right? And then you can write a test class for it. I will cover that a bit later. We have different data types here, right? You can use integer test, integer A, right? And you can do string B. You can do date C, right? You can. I remember I talked about S objects, so you can do account A. You can also write a SOQL query here and display it. So let me show you how to do that. So let's say list. So I want to see list of we can have. I will talk about collection in a bit later. Right. Okay. So while we're here, and let me talk about collection. So we have list, and we have set, and we have maps. Right. List. Actually, list. When you talk about list, you can store as subjects, you can store strings, you can store integer, right? And set can do the similar, but the thing with the set is that you can't store duplicate values in the set, right? And a map is more like a key value pair. So we have string. So first is your key, and this is your value. If you have used C#, you might have used dictionary, so it's similar to that, right? So the collections are very powerful. I mean, you can use a lot of collections here. Collections helps you with a lot of things in Salesforce. One of the important thing with the collection is that it helps you to with the so-called query limit, right? So let me give you an example here. First, let me get you an information. I'll show you how to get an information from a collection, right? So what we're gonna do, we can write a so-called query here. So this is a syntax: select ID name from account. Let's say very basic query, limit to, right? And now, so we're gonna get if, ACT, if ACT dot size is greater than 0, right? So what we're gonna do, just gonna do for, right? Let me loop. We can use for loop here for account. Account A, ACT, right? And you can do system dot debug. So I will explain you what I'm trying to do here, right? Name. So what I've done in this case, you can actually maximize this code editor, right? So what I've done here, I've actually I've used a so-called query to get two accounts, any account, I don't care. And I said, give me ID and name from an account. Please limit to 2. Means I will get only 2 account information. And I store that into list, which is a collection of account, right? As I said, list can contain S subject. Account is an S subject. So, and then I've checked whether I have any data inside the list. So I'm checking the size. So it could be greater than 0. It should be greater than 0 if I have some information. Then I use the for loop to loop through this list, right? So that's the thing. Sorry that if you hear some disturbance. My neighbor's been just screaming, so sorry about that. Right. So this is how you can use, and let's run this one. Let me save this one first, right? And then I can use the debug information, and I can do show, and let's see what happens, right? And let's say here, hello world. Sorry, that is not what I wanted. All right, sorry, it's not saved because I got an error because of this one, right? And then we'll see what's the problem here. Unexpected identifier, but was 2. Right? Let's see if I can save it. Let's see, what is the error? Expecting identifier. What is wrong here? We used a list of accounts. Right. Okay. Let me do this one. Sorry. Let's see what's going on first. All right. Okay. That's. Okay. This doesn't make sense, but limit to. Right. Let's see if that works. Right. Okay. Sorry. There was a syntax issue. Okay. So that's corrected. So now we've saved it. Right. And so this is how you troubleshoot. Right. And then you go to debug and then you run it. And then you go to debug only. So yeah, so you see we got 2 information because we requested 3. Let's see if I want 3, right? Save it, and right, so, and right, so that is something. If you go there and execute, right, and then you can go to debug, right, you can go 3. So that's pretty much it, right? So you can do a lot of things. I mean, I'm not going to cover detail Apex right now. So right, so yeah, so I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, the basic idea about how to write a code. And so tomorrow what I'm gonna do, we're gonna cover about I'm gonna give you basic information about or wait a second, before we go, I just want to talk about so-called limits, since we briefly, I just mentioned about so-called limit. So what happens is that, right, when you have a lot of queries running in a single transaction, right, it will hit a so-called limit. I think there is 100 of so-called limit. There's a limit to that. So what we're gonna do, let's say for instance, right, so I wanted to, let's say I'm inserting a record here, right? So let's say 300, right? And now let me create so if I'm creating let's say I'm creating another object here, say, I'll just give you a dummy example, right? Say test object t equals to new test. This is how you create a new, just pretend that there's an object here. So then t dot name equals to a dot name, right? And then insert, right? So insert t. Now what will happen is that it will hit the so-called limit because you are keep on inserting 300 times, right? So that's where the lists are very handy, right? So what we can do here in this case, so we can do list of, right, test, say t e equals to new. The test object do not exist, just pretend it exists, right? And so here instead of t, what you can do te dot add and t, and once out of the loop you can do insert te. So what happens is it just doing one insert. It actually behind the scene it's just inserting 300, right? Don't worry about the so-called because we're not doing anything here. So that is why list is very important, right? Right, so I hope you understand why list is very important, map and collection. I will show you over the course of time as we progress with the course why maps are very important and why, right? So that's all I wanted to cover, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this course. So thank you very much. And sorry for the disturbance if you heard from my neighbor. It's just late here today, just almost 7. So, all right, guys. So we will cover more about tomorrow, about bit about Aura components and about batch and other stuff. Right? Okay. All right. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.